All right, this is actually my first quote lecture without having people in front of me, so it feels really weird. I've actually gone over it like for an hour and a half, and this is something that I have been doing for forever. So if I kind of get weirder than usual, it's because I'm not used to having feedback on this. Okay, job analysis. Yeah, you know, it's so important, but it is it can be a little dry. Yeah, I already told you that. Okay, but it's very important. So let's talk about this. All right, why did that not? There. It's the I in IO psychology. I know I've already covered that, but I think it's okay for us to have a little bit of repetition. It's industrial psychology. This is also very much known as personnel psychology. So if you see any of there's a great journal on personnel psychology, very much in this realm. Job analysis is going to be in that, well, some other things. Personnel or industrial psychology deals with the creation, care, and maintenance of a workforce. And I just want to point out that at this point, let's see if I can do this. I'm trying to be fancy, so it could just go down in flames. Job analysis definitely in the creation part of industrial psychology. Again, I want to put out that industrial psychology is the most similar to human resources and is most taught in business schools and your human resources, although certainly the O is more organizational behavior. It's a little bit different than human resources. But anyway, we've already talked about that on our first week of class. So let's go a little bit more into some more just reinforcing personnel psychology, industrial psychology, human resources, often consider job analysis, recruiting, assessment and selection as performance appraisals, and training. Training is that link that takes us over to organizational psychology. This should all be familiar information to you, hopefully. So what is a job analysis? Okay, so this is kind of important. There's two ways to think of it. In a job analysis, we're either looking at the job that needs to happen or the human characteristics and attributes that are needed to perform that job. So I want you to kind of think about jobs as in two different ways. One, what behaviors need to happen, what tasks need to get done, and who needs to do them. And that's what we have to think about with the job analysis. And it actually gets a little bit complicated because some job analysis focus only on the job, so some focus only on the humans, and we need some hybrid is usually the best approach to getting to this. Okay, so you get two informations about the job, what I said, what tasks need to be done, and that when we think of tasks, we think of duties, tasks, so responsible for a professor, responsible for teaching, making sure things are graded, making sure lectures are happening, making sure particular information is exchanged. That would be like some of the tasks that a professor would need to do as a teacher. And then what needs to happen? Needs to show up for classes, needs to be on time, needs to publish, all of these things. Task informations. That kind of jumped at me as I was not expecting it. What's a job analysis? Now when we focus on the worker, okay, the person information, that's when we start talking about something that you're going to see, and you might have already seen already, the KSAOs, the knowledge, skills, abilities, and quote, other that our person needs to have. This is definitely one of the acronyms that IO psychology would have. You would be expected to know this from now on out, that KSAOs are knowledge, skills, abilities, and others. And sometimes there's a little bit of overlap between skills and abilities. I don't think those constructs are defined that well, but knowledge would be like for me as an IO psychology professor, I need to know IO psychology. I need to have PhD skills. I need to be able to talk and in ways that are understandable. Abilities would be engaging talk. So I like to think of skills as like the bare minimum ability is engaging, enthusiastic, etc. And then other is what Pfeffer says. Pfeffer talks about other as being the most important non-trainable part. Okay, so if we're going to, I don't know, if you're going to teach teaching at Harvard, but I've met people who teach at Harvard, and I don't think it's any different than teaching anywhere else. But the one that comes up, Southwest. People who work at Southwest Airlines are different than people who work at American Airlines, because Southwest folks have a lot of fun. So what's that non-tradable part? That kind of fitting into the culture of the organization. That's non-tradable. That's the most important part. But if you can, knowledge, skills, abilities, if there's a little decrease in it, you can train, but the abilities, the other you can't. I think I'm babbling now. Okay. And I'm babbling because usually my students have at this point a question mark or an okay nod thing, and I don't know where you are. But we focus on the KSAOs on who needs to do what. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do, we're going to have a little activity in class. And so before class, I would like for you to think of being a grad student. Okay, so if you were trying to do a job analysis for a grad student, I would like for you to think of tasks and activities grad students have to do, as well as what knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAO. So actually you can think of this as look at the jobs that need to happen, the task, and the person. So we're going to do a little bit on that. So just when I do this in class, I have them only focus on skills, but you can look at the KSAOs as well as task and activities. So go back and think about what job things need to happen and what people should be doing it. Okay, does that make sense? And then we're going to do a little activity. But I thought it'd be nice if you kind of do this, and you don't need to worry about doing any formal job analysis methods. Just trust me, many of the job analysis, although Tori may have a different information, happens informally. So 3 things we get from a job analysis. We get a job description that tells us the details of the job task. We use that in recruitment. When you're sending out a job notice that you want to hire somebody, that's what, recruitment, that's it. As well as onboarding, helping people know what they should be doing 1 month, 2 months, etc. It's very job focused. So the job description is job focused. The second part is a job specification. Wasn't it last week we were talking about how bad the words are? They don't really help. Yeah. I don't really think job specification is a great word, but it's more people focused, okay? So it's the job specification tells you the details of the characteristics needed. It tells you the minimum of hiring. It also helps in training. And when we talk about training, we're going to refer back to job analysis, and we're going to refer back to this job specification. If we know what skills people are supposed to have, what knowledge, skills, abilities, and other, usually KSAs, because you can't train O's so much. Well, customer service. Anyway, we will, this is where job specification comes in on training. We'll use the job analysis for training. Human focused, all right, job focused versus human focused. And then the final product is actually a job evaluation. And this tells us, are they doing a good job? So we use job analysis in job evaluation to tell us, here's what we think a good job performance is based on our job analysis, and helps us evaluate if we've done a good one, whether they've done a good job. So as I said, it really, I think about this. If we know what tasks need to be accomplished, we've done a good job analysis. When we go to evaluate someone's performance, we can say, did you do the task I needed? And that's where assess job appraisals draw into job analysis. We're going to spend a whole week on this later. It's a hard thing to do. Okay, so I found a really cool video that you can view. I've got it here, but also I actually thought this was so good. I sent it to my husband. We're just going to start a little bit and see if it works. Job descriptions and job analysis, right? I figured that might be a good thing, how useful. In fact, I thought this was so good that I sent it to my husband. But I have to be honest with you, the idea of watching a video in a video kind of freaks me out a little. I thought that'd be really boring. So I put that in the, oh, that's not a very good freeze frame for him, but Lord knows I've had some bad ones. So I put that in the page so you can look at that on your own, but I think this is actually pretty good, using a job analysis to write a job description. So we go on. Okay, so how do we do job analyses? I'm really interested to hear some of the information that Tori came out with, best practices. And to be honest, I was looking for additional information before this without going over, you know, trying to fill out some of what I know. And a lot of this is really, I think, what people teach intro to IO psychology folks. I'm not sure it's all use that frequently. So I'm really interested to hear what Tori talks about on Thursday. So I will argue that this is probably the most common one, an informal job analysis. So an HR director, an IO psychologist comes in, looks at people doing the job, maybe ask people who are actually doing the job. That looks like that's really not even. Ask people who are doing the job what they're doing. Maybe they do it themselves. They look at the current job descriptions. They interview people. They interview SMEs, subject matter experts. That's another one you should know, SME, I guess. Hold on. Forget I can do these things. I wonder if this works. Nope, that's a pen. All right, sorry. I think I should be able to do that. Nope, come back over there. Wait. Pen. SME. Yeah, I am winning the award for doing fancy pants recorded lectures. Yeah. Okay, as subject matter experts, I think that's something you should also know. Why is it in red? That's such an awful color. All right. So KSAOs and SMEs, boom, that is some, throw this, you can go to a IO cocktail party and throw out KSAO and SME and you'll be fancy sounding. Okay, so we interview subject matter experts. What they are people who are doing a good job, supervisors who know the job really well, people who are incumbents maybe not doing the good job, so you can see like, what are you doing, what's not going well, but those are subject matter experts. You can also do surveys. We're going to show you a survey that's actually quite common, that's actually easy to use, and job diaries, where you have people like every day or every couple of hours write down what they do. All of those, that would be something if you really can't get into participation or if you can't observe them, I think that would be something you'd want to do. I'm gonna stop that. Stop. Okay. So those are informal job analysis methods. I think there's combinations. I think this is probably pretty common for what people do. Formal job analyses, we're going to start off with the least common one, which is probably the most important. And it's the reason it's so least common is it takes so long. These are called critical incidents. I really don't know of anybody who's done this outside of research, but boy, is it good. So a critical incident is that you identify hundreds, dozens, hundreds, the most important incidents that are critical to the success and failure of a job. For instance, I like to use the example, I have two examples. We're going to talk about nurses because in my undergrad class, we spent a lot of time applying all this to nurses. We're going to use grad students for you guys. I think that's more interesting. But you can think of critical incidents as far as professors go. So imagine a class where everybody fails the test. Okay, imagine an undergrad class where everybody fails the test. That's a critical incident, all right? What does the teacher do? A poor teacher probably says, screw it, you guys all failed. And trust me, I see that in my son's high school classes, even in, I'm like, what? A moderate teacher, medium level teacher might say, I'm just gonna curve the test and, you know, something went wrong, but I'm just going to curve the test. And I know you already know what a good teacher does. A good teacher goes, if everybody failed the test, probably not everybody, it might be me. And they go back and reteach the material. So that's an example of why critical incidents can help you determine who's going to be a good employee. And as we're going to say, how you can evaluate whether someone's a good employee or not. So critical incidents determining on a job what are critical to success and failure on the job. So when things go absolutely wrong. So for an example of a nurse, if there's a code blue, that means someone is dying on the pediatric ward. My daughter spent a lot of time in the hospital, and so I have a little, I've been there as a mom and also as an IO psychologist, looking around going, okay, what's good, what's bad? She never had a code blue, but we all of these things have happened. The pharmacy sends the wrong medicine, or a child is hysterical. So those are critical incidents of when things go wrong. And then you can see by analyzing, what does the nurse do if it's really bad? What does the nurse do if the, what's a bad nurse do? What does a medium nurse do? What does a good nurse do? And what things that absolutely must go right. So things that absolutely must go right is a nurse providing insights to help a diagnosis. Nurses actually spend more time with patients than others. So you want a nurse who's able to use their critical insights to help diagnosis, as well as probably the most important thing, communicating well during shift changes. So if something is happening, their ability to take all the information from their head and give it to another head during hospital visit to the next shift is extremely important. So this critical incidents are awesome for determining like the characteristics of the person. This is a very person-focused job analysis method. What must a job, what must help? It also, so the job incumbents provide insights, you do a lot of interviewing, and it's really amazing for best practices for good performance. Okay, we're gonna come back to this when we talk about job evaluations, because if you've done this, you know exactly what a good high-performing employee looks like. No one does these. The reason it takes almost cussed. It takes a ton of work, a ton of time, and you have to do it for every single job. So if you're looking at possibly pediatric nurses, okay, that's fine. But then you have to do nurse managers, then you have to do the CNAs in pediatric, then you have to do the heart cardiology nurses and the cardiology CNAs and the cardiology doctors. And so it has to be specific to every job. And if you don't have a lot of people doing the same job, you have to do a critical incidence analysis for each of them. So this is fan-freaking-tastic, but it does not work well. It takes a lot of time. Okay. Other formal job analysis, formal methods of job analysis. This is a survey called the PAQ, the PAC, Position Analysis Questionnaires. And here we do the most formal ones. Hold on. The most formal, look at that. Does that work? You have to tell, did you see the pen before and now you see this? I would love if you'd let me know this. We look at information input, what mental cognitions, what needs to come out, how they work with other people, where are they working, so the inside, outside the hospital, in a quiet environment, and other job characteristics. So this is very much focused on task, okay? Whereas critical incidence is focused on person, this one is very much focused on tasks, what they need to do. And examples, and it's a full-on questionnaire. Some meta-analysis have shown that the more questions and the more raters, the better. It can be really boring. I mean, if you've got like 100 questionnaires. Here's some that I've seen of PAQ questions. Compared to all the other tasks I do, I spend 0 time on it to 5 the most time on this. How much do I talk to other people? How much do I work in a cramped space? How much do I drive trucks and cars? Let's think about our nurse. Does a lot of verbal communication, might work in a cramped space, does not drive cars, must analyze problems, must dispense medication, take risk, certainly right now while serving others, and perform under time pressures. So you come up with, you hand this out to the people, you come back up with more people, analyze it, and you end up with a cluster analysis and figure out what tasks they need to do. I have not seen this used a lot, but I think people using job analysis may do. I don't see a lot of people doing job analysis beyond the informal methods, but it is a very common one and a good one. I think this is the final one. Ah, yeah, this is the fun one. The final method of job analysis is called a functional job analysis. This was originally used for the Dictionary of Occupational Titles that used to live in the library, and the only way you could see it was to go to the library, and they look at jobs evaluated on people, data, and things. I said that in the wrong order. Data, what information and knowledge you have. People, how much you come in contact with others. Things, interactions with inanimate objects. That's mostly what it focused on. Functional job analysis traditionally looks at what is done and now how it is done. Okay, so I just scooted through that. The reason I scooted through that is that we no longer worry about going to the library to find the Dictionary of Occupational Titles. Now we get to go to ONET. Okay, I'm going to take you there in a second. This is how we do a functional job analysis. It is this link right here, okay? And we can look at the data it collects. It gets lots of good information. We're going to go look at a pediatric nurse, and it is a great way for an HR manager or an IO psychologist to get a good idea of what jobs. It collects everything from the KSAOs to salary. Although I'll tell you, I think its salary options are high. My husband would say the same thing. There are other options. Glassdoor might give you some more information a little better. And be sure and watch that video because it gives you really good information on this. So let me see if this, all right, y'all hold on a second. I want to stop doing this. Stop. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go screen share. I'm going to stop this screen share so we can look at this. All right, so hold on a second. Stop share, screen share, over there. Okay, you should be looking at this. So either you're going to see a video of ONET, really boring, or you're going to see this here. So let's look up pediatric nurse. We're going to get a little disappointed because it's going to take us to registered nurses. Okay, so this is anything that has a little star by it is pretty interesting. It means that there's a pediatricians. Interesting. So nurse practitioners. So anything with a thing like that means that it's growing. It's a growing. Do we see pediatric registered genetic counselors, anesthesiologists? It's not growing. Look, there's a bright outlook. That's what that means. So let's go look at registered nurses. Okay, and it gives us a summary of the tasks, the technology skills, the KSAs. Knowledge, they need knowledge in medicine and dentistry. They need to have active listening skills, and then abilities. Oh, and oral comprehension. I always switch those up. You can look at all the things here for this, what work activities they're going to do, detailed work activities, maintain, blah, where they're going to work. Oh, wow. The work context, job zones, still going down, blah, blah, interests that they have, work styles, work values, related occupations. And here, down here, you get to see, oh, I really hope you see this. If not, I'll record a video just going over ONET, but let me know if you don't see that I'm looking at this. So it tells you the wages. So overall, across the country, an annual wage of $73,000 for nurses, but we can also go down to North Carolina and see what those are. In North Carolina, the average rate for a nurse is a little bit lower, 64,000. But let's go to my zip code, Plaza Midwood. That's in Charlotte, at least. And it's a little bit higher. It's a little bit higher, not that much. here compared to elsewhere. In Charlotte, in North Carolina, and it gives you a breakdown of the bottom 10% and the top 10% and the Q, et cetera, the quartiles, lowest quartiles, highest quartiles in the middle. So if you're thinking of looking for a job or for, stop share, okay, let me close that. That's a really great way for you to look for a job and make arguments about being paid, as well as, let me get back to sharing. Share, where'd it go? I've lost the share screen. Oh, there. Okay. It's a great way to do job analysis quickly. And it's good for research too. So if you're looking, it's good for research for you, for looking for jobs. And in fact, I would imagine that as soon as you get off here, you're going to go run to ONET, which is a link I have on our page, and look up biopsychologist. And you're going to go, OMG. And I'm going to say, I know. Yeah. Okay. So final things. We are scooting through here. Okay. Final things. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this explicitly, because here's the crummy part. In IO psychology, we only talk about diversity in recruitment and in job analysis, which is bullshit, right? Now I'm going to cuss. But that's where generally, and we generally talk about it legally. So I've got a couple of legal documents that I want you to look at on the Americans with Disabilities Act. What does that actually mean? It's something that only happened in 1990. Before then, it was possible to discriminate against people based on their disabilities. But now it is illegal, and organizations have to be cognizant of that. And so what it basically means is it's illegal to discriminate against a qualified person with a disability. Still, you know, there's all kinds of disability discriminations going on, but it's illegal to do it. You just have to show it. That's the bullshit we'll talk about next week. Organizations must provide a reasonable accommodation. Okay. And just keep going. I'm going to come back to reasonable accommodation, but let's just go through what that means. So job analysis provides objective information on the essential functions of a job. And so if someone can perform the essential functions of a job and they're qualified, but you don't hire them because they have a disability, but they can perform those essential functions, then you have you are breaking the law. Okay, that's against the law. So the organization must provide a reasonable accommodation. And one example I would say is that nurses and CNAs, firefighters all have a requirement to be able to lift a certain amount of a certain weight. And if someone can't do that, they cannot lift that weight, then it is not against the law to say that you can't do this because this is an essential function of the job. On the other hand, if they can do that, and you need to provide, if they can't do that, you are discriminating against them by not hiring them, but you must provide a reasonable accommodation. For example, if someone uses a wheelchair and they are qualified for the job, you must be able to have something besides stairs for them to enter the building. And I have a lot of friends who have had with wheelchairs who've had to really make noise because people still will not do this. My husband has noted rightfully that people are claiming now that they can't wear masks because they have asthma. Okay. So organizations must provide a reasonable accommodation. I'm not particularly sure that's a true thing, but even if it is, that doesn't mean they get to go in the store without a mask on. The reasonable accommodation is someone else goes shopping for them and then they come out. So reasonable accommodation is not, let's repeat this, you get to go shopping without a mask. It means, as I've seen offered, I will buy this for you and bring it out for you. You tell me what you need and I will provide the service for you. But you cannot go in without your mask on because a requirement for private organizations of wearing of masks is their essential function. A reasonable accommodation is available, but it's not wearing a mask. Does that make sense? So that kind of, it just makes my husband's head pop off his body. And now I yell at the videos too. I'm like, that's because you did that. I mean, whatever. But yes, pregnancy is one of the common disabilities employers must deal with. And so, and you would be shocked that even as of last year, Amazon, FedEx, all of these would not make reasonable accommodations, including, I think a woman won a case last year. She was told not to lift anything above X pounds. They told her they were going to fire her if she didn't, and a reasonable accommodation is go to a slower weight, reassign for the time of the pregnancy. It's just, I mean, this is one, gets my husband really kind of pissed off because, especially since we have children, organizations that don't give people a little bit of leeway while they're in childbearing years loses, that's, which is, people have children make 2, 4, 6 years out of their lives. They're kind of, not at top performance. You keep them in, you make them loyal to the organization. You've got 20, 30 years of knowledge, goodwill, and performance to deal with. But employers have a problem with that. Anyway, people do ask, mental health is covered, mental disabilities and mental health is covered as long as the employer knows about it. And so some organizations, some employees choose not to share that information, but it is covered if it's shared. All right, any questions on that? Because you might have some questions. I'm going to put up the I'm going to put up a Padlet for questions that come up, and anything I see about job analysis I think might be interesting, including some of these videos in here. Okay, final. Job evaluation and compensation. Y'all, this is one thing we do not cover in IO psychology. My husband and I have been talking when he teaches you talent management next semester. I think he is going to include something on compensation because of all of us in the IO program, he's the only one that actually deals with compensation, despite knowing that many of our students graduate and go on to do work with compensation. So job evaluation, job analysis is very important in compensation, because if we have objective measures of what people can do, then we know how much we ought to be paying them. So what characteristics of the job or the KSAOs does a person of that person? So what parts of the job, task, work characteristics, etc., or the KSAOs of the person deserve to be compensated? You would think that someone who has a master's should get paid more than someone who has a bachelor's. I mean, that's part of the knowledge that is a little bit higher. So things we look at are experience, education, responsibility, complexity of duty, supervision, received, executed, errors, working conditions. All of those things mean that those are all, excuse me, compensable factors. And we want compensable factors to fairly, want to use these to pay people equally across jobs. As you can imagine, that doesn't always happen, okay? Especially when we look at, I always argue and always get pushback. I think I coughed right into that microphone, sorry. Women are paid less even when their compensable factors are similar. One always looks at nurses compared to police officers. Generally, some people have argued based on compensable factors, those should be similar, and they are not. Certainly, if you want to look at nursing professors compared to business professors, they're paid a lot less, even though they're doing very similar things and the demand is about the same. So here's an article on women being paid less. It's in Business Insider. You can see the link down there. I'll tell you, Business Insider is a great free news resource that provides, it's one of the top news resources that provides good information for folks. All right. Whew, I felt like I ran through that. I think it did. You can always play back the video slower or, slower or, all right, hold on. I'm not trying to do that. Stop screen share. All right. Hey, my big head again. Okay. Hopefully that was useful. Let me know how that went. And I will see you in class on Thursday. A couple of folks have showed up in my personal room. Just shoot me an email before you go. I'm going to try to keep it open more often, but today is Monday and my kids are home. If you were observing Yom Kippur, I hope that's a meaningful and easy fast for you this year. That's when I'm recording this. Okay, so the kids are out of school. Thanks. See you guys Thursday.